Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to this course. We are going to be doing something very similar to our advanced Android course, except that the operating system is different. Concepts are very similar, as you all can imagine. So, this is from your course outline that the iPhone operating system, the iOS, provides numerous tools for interacting with various hardware and software components. Students will develop more robust applications while gaining experience working with extended features such as geolocation, sensors, and the camera. So I'm going to open the Android outline and will put it side by side, and you will see that it is actually quite similar. So this is what we are doing in Android. The Android operating system has numerous features that are used to control the advanced hardware aspects of the device. So hardware and software components. We'll develop more robust applications while so this line is pretty much the same. Sensors, geolocation. So just a couple of things are different, but even those, are pretty minor. So you will see that we follow this approach where we will keep on drawing on parallels between the two operating systems so that it's actually in a way it is very good. There are lots of things we will cover in the Android course, and that class happens before this lecture in the same week. There are things that we would have talked about. We don't have to go into so much detail, so we can explore more of the iOS on its own itself. That's what we are going to do. This one here, I'm not going to talk about this again. We already did this on Monday, and I don't see anybody else. Everybody who was in the class on is in the class today was there on Monday. Okay. It is how will we approach the subject. So this is the same style. Most of you are already familiar with the way we do things in the classes. Hands-on, we will practice everything. I'm not a big proponent of lecturing abstract concepts, so we'll just keep on doing things, and as and when needed, we will go into more detail and talk about the subject that we are studying. And overall, basically, what should happen is that at the end of this course, at the end of the Android course, you should be in a position where it's like knowing the city where you live. You don't need to look at the map every time you want to go to the grocery store or go to the gym or wherever else you go. It should become like that. You should be familiar. It does not mean that you know every address, every location in the city, but generally you have an idea. So that's what we want. We want an approach where broadly you know everything that you need to know. And finer details you can always look up. Okay. So that's what we are going to talk about today. It's actually a broader category in terms of concept, app extensions. So this is more than just the widgets. Before we get into that topic, I want to ask you is, these app extensions are not to be confused with Swift extensions. Is anyone familiar with the extension concept in Swift? Okay. So Swift has this concept. So that's a language thing. App extension is it extends an app, but in Swift there is a concept that it is working with the web. There is this extensions, right? This is different from app extensions. And the difference is that this in Swift, you can extend a class, a pre-existing class. You can add functionality to it, to a type that is already defined. And the way you do it is you use a keyword extension. So, for example, there is a very good example here, UI color. You're saying you're extending this UI color class. UI color is a native class. It gives you access to color objects, red, blue, green, etc. You can define your own extension within your Swift files. You can just say extension UI color, and then you define a new variable inside it called favorite color, and this is your favorite color, whatever the actual color is, you return that. This is an extension. It is almost like, subclassing a native class and adding functionality to it. But when you do that, you have to give it a different name. In Swift, you can use the keyword extension, and suddenly you have a new property called favorite color available to you as a part of UI color. So instead of, you know, saying UI color, giving it another name and then creating an subclass, you just say UI color dot favorite color because it's a static, it's always available. Stop doing this pop-up. Okay, is that so this is something we'll use in our when we are doing our development. We may use extensions as and when necessary. These are useful. For example, let's say you want to format something in a certain way. You can create an extension and format it. Just these kind of things. So those are Swift extensions. What are app extensions? Let's look at that. The the scope and the purpose is very similar to Android extensions. Well, let's jump right into it and see what are the different types of extensions that are available to us in iOS. So these are some examples. How many of you own an iDevice, an iPhone in particular?
I do.
I have an iPhone as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too.
So iPhone users are familiar with these things, right? That, if you swipe right, you get a screen like this, the one in the middle. This is one type of extensions. Another type of extension on the iPhone is to customize your keyboards and more. And, let's look at them one by one. Custom keyboards, for example, there is one shown here, which is a number keyboard with, maybe you can use it for currencies, etc. One here used with your app, your shopping app, and here it says find a gift. I don't know if you can read the slideshow mode. Find a gift, it says here. So you can customize your keyboard. That's one type of extensions. The other one is file providers. So if your app, like, look at these examples here. You want to upload a file, you know what kind of files can be made available. For example, the Pages app, it's like Microsoft Word, it says 3 items. So this app allows you to create certain types of file and you expose them to other apps. So let's say there is another app, let's say like Dropbox, right? Dropbox wants you to upload files to the Dropbox. But how does it know which files on your phone can be uploaded? You can expose from your own app. You can say, okay, I will be exposing files, this file provider functionality, and then in your app you implement what files are there and allow Dropbox to upload them. You see examples here. apps. At least I had never heard of this pixel mater and all the real estate. So these things, these are not standard apps. Home screen actions. So this is there in Android as well. If you press and hold the app icon in your home screen, a menu pops up that, depending upon each app, it may be different. So, for example, the News app from Apple, if you press and hold, it will give you these options: today, news, top stories, editors, picks, edit home screen. This is a probably there on all apps, but these are related to the News app. So, in the same way, if you have an app, let's say you have a gaming app, the user can play a game, and it's the kind of game that you need to choose, either to resume an old game, let's say crossword puzzles. So there may be an option, if you press and hold, there may be an option saying start new crossword puzzle, or view your history. Those things you can expose here. Sharing, when you want to share, you can expose your app as a target for share. Why is it that when you share, you will see WhatsApp, Skype, etc. appear here? Because they have exposed their app as a target for sharing. It appears there. Widgets. This is like what we did the other day, Android. So this is a weather app. It has its own widget. It shows you the weather, calendar, and so on. So what we will will do today is we'll make one of these, a similar one to the one we did on Monday, but we'll be doing it in iOS. Okay, before we start, any questions so far on any of this?
I just have a question about the other extensions like share and stuff. So
Mhm.
is the coding for that similar to how we gonna do for widgets, or is it like a little bit different how these works?
It's going to be slightly different for each one of them. They are all encompassed in the category of extensions. But if you want to expose your app as a share target, something, let's say your app is a messaging app, and you want people to be able to share files with each other through your app, then you need to expose certain functionality, and you implement certain, just like we did on Monday. We implemented a service. You remember that we implemented a service that allowed the host app to update the photos and stuff, to interact with the app that is exposing the widget. In the same way, you will need to implement certain things. It's going to be slightly different, it varies, but the concept is very similar. You can do any of these extensions using the same methodology. The coding will be different. We will look at widgets today. If you guys want to look at another one, let's say how to expose the sharing, we can look at that as well. We may not do an entire app, but we'll just look at the methodology.
Okay.
We can do that as well. Anybody else? Okay. So just as in Android, these widgets, they're not full apps. They have similar limitations. That day we talked about how you cannot do all sorts of gestures, only limited to certain things. So the same thing here. For example, here, you cannot swipe right or left on these items, because that functionality takes you to another part of your home screen. So that way, it is those limitations are there. And as in Android, they're hosted inside other apps. You could actually create an app which is a host app, which looks at other apps for what extensions they make available. Okay. So this is going to be our starting point. That day we created a new app and we added a widget to it. We're going to do something very similar. We'll just create a new app. And our objective today is not to focus on this app, but how to add a widget to it. This is just our base.